Put Your Business on the Web, a Basic Primer, presented by Incendex Web Services. This is a 3-part online video series for small to medium-sized business owners. What we hope to achieve is to answer some of the basic questions that a lot of business owners have when they decide that they want to put their business on the World Wide Web. So what are we going to talk about in this series? In part 1, this video, we're going to talk about the basics of how the internet works. We'll talk a little bit about the technology, not enough to confuse you, just enough to give you a little bit more information so you know a little bit better of how these things work. We're also going to talk about purchasing a domain name. What happens when you purchase that domain name, and how does it help people find your website on the World Wide Web? In the second part of the series, we're going to talk about hosting options and questions you need to ask before purchasing hosting services. The third part of the series, we're going to talk about getting your site designed, actually building your website, how to find a web designer, what things you need to make sure your web designer does so that you get the most effective website possible. So let's go ahead and talk about what the internet is. How do they do it? Well, the internet is actually nothing more than a big network, a network that connects different computers from all over the world. As long as I have access to this network, I have access to the internet. Now, one of the important things to understand is there's different types of computers on the internet, or different types of nodes. Now, most of these are the same: your basic desktop computer, your laptop or handheld device. But there's one special device known as the web server. The web server is actually the computer that stores websites. It stores the pages, it stores the video, it stores the audio, it stores the flash files. And so what happens is when someone actually tries to navigate to your site, they're making a request to your web server. The web server receives that request and then sends that information back to the computer that made the request. On the computer that made that request, a web browser interprets the information and presents it. In most cases, we're talking about Internet Explorer or Firefox. If we're talking about Mac computers, we're most likely talking about Safari. Mobile devices will run different types of browsers, but generally those now are becoming more compatible with the standard browsers. So, what do you need to do to make sure that your web server is available and people can find your company's website on the World Wide Web? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to claim your space on the web by purchasing a domain name. In our case, Incendex Web Management Services, we have Incendex.net. Now, when we purchase this name, or you purchase your company's domain name, what actually happens is that name goes into a big directory. That directory contains the domain name and the address of the web server that's storing the website. This is all done by an organization called ICANN, Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Makes sense, assigned names. What about the numbers part? The numbers, they're talking about IP addresses. IP addresses, or Internet Protocol addresses, are just like phone numbers. What we do is we match a domain name to an IP address, and that IP address is actually assigned to a physical web server on the World Wide Web. Now, when we talk about domain names, it works a little different. When we looked at Incendex.net, when your name is resolved on the web or in this ICANN directory, it actually starts from the right and moves itself to the left. So it'll start at .net or .com or .org, goes into the directory, finds all the .nets, then looks for Incendex. The triple dub is a special way of denoting different servers within your web server. In most cases, this isn't an issue you have to worry about. Internic. Now, ICANN is the organization that maintains the directories, but Internic is the organization. It's a registered service mark of the United States Department of Commerce. This group actually maintains the taking of money and making sure that the information gets to ICANN. ICANN handles the technical aspects. Internic, handles the business side. So how does this work in the real world of people requesting to see websites? Well, let's look at it. You've got the internet, and you've got someone sitting at a computer. What they're going to do is go into their web browser, and they're going to type in a name: abc.com, yourbusiness.com, or insindex.net. Now, the first time this happens, what's going to happen is we're going to go to the directory, get the name, get the IP address, and then that request is going to be sent out via the World Wide Web to the web server down here in the bottom left hand corner. That web server is going to say, I have this information, you've come to the right place, and then what it's going to do is it's going to send that information directly back to the user that requested the information. Notice that we didn't go back to the directory. In most cases, we're only going to use that directory one time. As a part of this big network of computers that constitutes the internet, there are things called routers and switches. And what these really are sort of exchange points. They record the addresses and domain names on the World Wide Web. So when I make my request, in most cases I never really actually go to the directory being maintained by ICANN. In most cases, my request goes to a router or switch, and the information is stored there. Once information is stored on one router or switch on the internet, it's propagated to other routers and switches on the internet automatically. So, the longer my website exists, the more routers and switches know where my website is, and the quicker and easier it is for the internet to find my website. So, this is the end of part 1 of our series. We've talked about what it means, or what the internet is, how it works, and then we've also discussed how you claim your piece of the World Wide Web in terms of purchasing your domain name. That domain name gets registered in a central location, making it easy for anyone to find your website, because that web name or domain name is actually assigned to an IP address or Internet Protocol address, which is assigned to your web server. And remember, your web server is the computer that has access to the web, that actually stores all the different files that make up your website. We hope this has been informative, and please take a moment, write down some notes, and then get ready to take part 2 of our series, where we're going to talk about getting someone to host that web server that's going to store your files. Thank you and have a good day, and if you're interested and want to learn more, visit us at insindex.net, nsydx.net, again, nsydx.net. Thank you.